Imagine a world where your vote counts, but only on paper, where elections are held, laws are passed, speeches are made, and yet the same handful of people remain in control, generation after generation. This is not a conspiracy theory, and it may be closer to your daily life than you think. The word oligarchy comes from the ancient Greek, oligoi meaning few, and archein meaning to rule, put simply, the rule of the few. The philosopher Aristotle was one of the first to define it systematically. In his work Politics, he described oligarchy as a corrupted form of government, a system where power serves not the public good, but the private interests of a wealthy minority. For Aristotle, the key question was never just who rules, but for whom do they rule? A government of the few, ruling for the few. That, he said, is oligarchy. Oligarchy is not a modern invention. It is in many ways the default setting of human civilization. Sparta, celebrated for its military discipline, was governed by a small class of warrior elites. The Helots, who made up the majority of the population, had no political voice whatsoever. The Republic of Venice lasted over 1,000 years. It was admired across Europe for its stability, but that stability came at a price. Power was locked within a closed circle of merchant families, recorded in a document called the Libro d'Oro, the Golden Book. If your family name was not in it, you simply did not exist politically. In Renaissance Florence, the Medici family turned banking wealth into political dominance. They funded art, architecture, and the church, not purely out of generosity, but because influence in every form was power. In 1911, a German sociologist named Robert Michels made a deeply uncomfortable argument. He studied labor unions and socialist parties, organizations that were, by design, built to fight inequality, and what he found disturbed him. No matter how democratic their founding principles, these organizations inevitably developed inner circles. Leaders accumulated influence. The rank and file became passive. Michels called this the Iron Law of Oligarchy. Who says organization says oligarchy. His point was radical. Oligarchy is not just a political system. It is a structural tendency, present in parties, corporations, religious institutions, even NGOs. Power, when concentrated, resists redistribution. The most documented modern example is post-Soviet Russia. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, an entire state economy was suddenly privatized. A small group of well-connected individuals, with access to capital, political ties, and legal loopholes, acquired oil companies, media outlets, and banks at a fraction of their real value. These men became known as oligarchs. They did not merely accumulate wealth, they shaped legislation. They owned television channels that influenced public opinion. They funded political campaigns. Some ran for office themselves. But oligarchy in the modern world is not unique to Russia. A landmark 2014 study by Princeton University, conducted by researchers Martin Gillens and Benjamin Page, analyzed over 1,700 policy decisions in the United States. Their conclusion was stark. Economic elites and organized business groups have substantial independent influence on government policy, while average citizens have little or none. The study did not call America an oligarchy outright, but the data pointed in a troubling direction. Oligarchies do not survive through brute force alone. They survive through narrative control. When a small group owns the major newspapers, the television networks, and increasingly the social media platforms, they do not need to censor the truth directly. They simply determine which truths get amplified and which ones get buried. This is why media ownership matters. This is why the concentration of information is just as dangerous as the concentration of wealth. In addition, oligarchies rely on what political scientists call the revolving door, between positions in government and positions in industry. A senator retires and joins the board of a defense contractor. A pharmaceutical executive becomes a health regulator. A central banker moves to a hedge fund. The faces change. The interests remain the same. Can oligarchy and democracy coexist? The uncomfortable answer is yes, and they often do. Elections can take place. Courts can function. Constitutions can exist. And yet, if economic power is concentrated enough, those democratic institutions become largely ceremonial. The scholar Sheldon Wolin described this condition as inverted totalitarianism, a system where corporate power has achieved dominance, not by abolishing democratic forms, but by hollowing them out from within. Citizens are free to vote. They are simply not free to choose who is worth voting for. Today, oligarchic structures can be identified across the globe. In the Philippines, a handful of family dynasties, the Marcoses, the Ayalas, the Cis, have dominated both business and politics for generations. In Ukraine, before and after the 2014 revolution, oligarchs like Renat Akhmetov and Ihor Kolomoisky wielded enormous influence over media and government alike. In Gulf monarchies, wealth from natural resources has created ruling families whose economic and political power is essentially indistinguishable. And in Silicon Valley, a new kind of oligarchy is taking shape. One built not on oil or steel, but on data, algorithms, and platform monopolies. When a single company controls the flow of global information, the question of democratic accountability becomes urgent. Oligarchy is not inevitable. History also records moments of rupture. When concentrated power was successfully challenged, the abolition of aristocratic privilege in France, the antitrust movements of the early 20th century, the labor rights struggles that built the middle class. None of these victories were permanent. All of them required organized, sustained effort. The first step, the step you are taking right now, is simply to understand the system you live in. Because you cannot challenge what you cannot name, and now you have a name for it. Thank you for watching. If this video made you think, share it. Knowledge, unlike power, grows when it is distributed.